So the first island we'll be visiting on our island hopping tour around the Venetian Lagoon is the colourful island of Burano.
The Venetian Lagoon is an enclosed bay of the Adriatic Sea in the northeast of Italy. Apart from Venice City, the Venetian Lagoon boasts almost 200 islands, of which we just visited a few. The first is Burano. From Venice, it takes about 45 minutes by Vaporetto to reach the enchanted island of Burano, which has a population of about 3,000. The island is famous for its colourful houses and lace making. The first settlement is said to have probably been occupied by the Romans and later by refugees from the ancient settlement of Altino, destroyed by Attila the Hun in the 5th century AD. In the 16th century, lace making became an important trade, which was introduced to Burano from modern-day Altino, which back then was ruled by the Venetians. When the industry died down in the 18th century, the economy of the island was partially revitalized by the founding of a lace-making school in the 19th century. Today, Burano is one of the last places where hand lace making is still practiced. When arriving in Burano, you may be asking yourself, why are the houses so colourful? Well, a legend has it that the fishermen had difficulties finding the island on a foggy day, hence they decided to paint the houses in various colours, so that it would be easier to identify their whereabouts and find their way back. Another site is the 16th century church of San Martino, with its leaning bell tower. It is famous for its paintings by Giovanni Battista Tiepolo.
So the second leg of our journey across the Venetian Lagoon brings us to one of the oldest inhabited islands within the region, and that is the island of Torcello, with a history that goes back to the mid-5th century.
The next island is the island of Torcello, which was one of the first lagoon islands that served as a refuge from Attila the Hun in the 5th century AD. About 200 years later, Torcello became the official seat of the Bishop of Altino. One of the island's main sites is the Byzantine Cathedral of Santa Maria Assunta, founded in the 7th century and renovated in the 9th century and later during the 11th century. Adjacent to the cathedral is the church of Santa Fosca, which was built in the 9th century and was changed into its current form in the 12th century. By the 14th century, the swamp area around the lagoon increased around the island, and it became harder to reach the island. During the 10th century, up to 35,000 people are said to have lived in Torcello. Nowadays, the number of inhabitants is only about 10. Not too far from Torcello and Burano is the small archipelago of Murano, which is largely famous for its glass sculpting. Murano consists of a series of islands that were initially inhabited by the Romans. In the following centuries, Murano mainly prospered from fishing and the production of salt. However, in the 13th century, the Venetian Republic became gradually concerned that glassmaking in the city might cause a fire of the mostly wooden buildings in Venice itself. Therefore, the glassmakers were moved to Murano from Venice in the late 13th century and soon enjoyed a special status in the society, such as the immunity from prosecution of the Venetian state, as long as they didn't leave the Republic. Murano became a monopoly of glassmaking for the centuries following, when numerous glassmaking techniques were refined and invented. Today, many tourists visit the island to go to the Murano Glass Museum and to go crafts shopping. Located between the main island of Venice and Murano is the island of San Michele, an island that is most famous for having become a cemetery in 1807 and was designed by Gian Antonio Selva, and it is still in use today, and is a resting ground for many Venetian, Italian and foreign dignitaries from days bygone. Another island that should not be missed is Lido De Venezia, which is an 11-kilometer or 7-mile barrier island in the Venetian Lagoon, not far from the main city. It is largely famous for hosting the Venice Film Festival, which is one of the world's oldest film festivals and is among one of the 3 most prestigious film festivals in Europe alongside Cannes and Berlin. Lido De Venezia is also known for its beaches and natural beauty. A nice way to explore the island is by cycling to Spiaggia degli Alberoni, which is a denaturalized beach with a protected pine forest. It is truly a relaxing place, especially if you want to take a break from the busy and often crowded Venice island and main city. Just south of the island of Lido De Venezia is the island of Palestrina. This is an 11-kilometer long island that consists of several villages, beaches, and a nature reserve, the latter being on its southern tip of Caroman. This relatively quiet island relies on fishing, agriculture, shipbuilding, and tourism as part of its economy. Tourists typically visit here directly from neighbouring Venice or Lido di Venezia. There is even a bus, which as of 2022 is the number 11, that begins in Lido di Venezia and drives down via ferry to Palestrina. The south end of the island is also connected by vaporetto to the town of Chioggia. The islands in the Venetian Lagoon are all part of the city of Venice, where each provides a unique and wonderful experience, and along with the main part of the city itself, they also provide different perspectives of modern Venetian life and culture. If you ever happen to visit Venice, we couldn't recommend enough that you also pay a visit to some of the city's beautiful islands, and get a greater insight and perspective into the beauty of this historical city's culture, history, and heritage. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button and subscribe to our channel.